Okay, so if I was to sum up my thoughts on this chapter as a whole, then this felt like the build up to the final deciding moments of the arc. Like just in the way the events of this chapter played out, but especially with how we see Onigashima looming ever closer to the flower capital while the siblings continue to celebrate, and adding that on top of Luffy winding up to land what appears to be the final decisive blow. It makes me think that within the next couple chapters, the outcome of this arc, this fight, will be decided. Whether that means Oda drops Onigashima on the flower capital or not, but even if that ultimately is how this ends, I can't help but feel this kind of setup for to help but feel the kind of setup for this to be the final deciding moments, and just in the way the pieces were arranged and set up on in this episode has also all but confirmed my own theory that Kaido will be defeated regardless of whether Onigashima falls where it's supposed to. But honestly, even knowing that, this chapter has me like second guessing what Onigashima dropping on the flower capital is even going to mean or look like, because if that final panel is anything to go off of, it looks like Luffy's gonna end up destroying Onigashima along with defeating Kaido. Like it it in like and in turn like causing like a sort of meteor shower over Wano, and Momonosuke's job will then become containing as much of the fallout as possible. Like that's at this point that's kind of where I'm imagining this whole situation going right now. Like that technically, like Onigashima falling is also going to be its destruction kind of thing. And that and honestly I kind of just love how the samurai view the current situation, in the sense of saying, if we survive this, then Kaido's won, but if we fall to our deaths, then Wano's free again. Like that is a like that in itself is such a morbid way of looking at the situation, but at the same time it just fits so well with how the samurai have viewed this conflict, like pretty much since the beginning. Like since the beginning, they've been prepared for their deaths, no matter what that looks like. And yeah, it is kind of a weird situation where it's a complete reverse, where if they survive, then that means they've won. Like in normal situations, if you survive something, that means you've won. But if you die, that means you failed. But in this case, it's a complete 180 reversal of how because of the current situation with Onigashima, if Onigashima continues to stay afloat and they survive, Kaido has won definitely. But if if they plummet to their deaths, then yes, that means Luffy's won and Wano is a free nation. Is a free nation again. Like again, it's so backwards, but it fits so well within that strange viewpoint. With that said, though, let's talk about the little lesson Kaido was drilling into Luffy this chapter, about how abilities cannot conquer the world, and how it's something even Roger understood as he conquered the seas without powers. And yeah, not gonna lie, I kind of agree with Kaido on this one, on more than a couple levels of it. Like the first essence I'm kind of believing in. I kind of believe what Kaido's saying is that it's definitely true, in the sense where even though Luffy has gained these new abilities and unlocked his awakening, all that, there will still come a time very soon where, for as powerful as his Devil Fruit has become, he won't be able to rely on it. Case in point, I'd like to remind people that Blackbeard is still out there, and we can only rightfully assume he's gotten more adept in wielding his darkness power, meaning more skilled in canceling Devil Fruit abilities. So even though Luffy has reached this peak with his Devil Fruit, he has to start committing to actually strengthening his Haki. Otherwise, when he fights Blackbeard again, Blackbeard's gonna eat him alive. Like that's just a fact. Like as long as Blackbeard has the Darkness Fruit power and the ability to cancel Devil Fruit abilities, then it's like it's not gonna mean much. If he doesn't strengthen his Haki, then he won't even have a chance at defeating Blackbeard. That in itself is just a cold hard fact of the situation, honestly. But even beyond the devil fruit hockey aspect of what Kaido's talking about, I feel there's an underlying lesson of how short-sighted Luffy's idea of alliances and accepting help from others is it has been up to this point. Like, for example, this whole campaign to save Wano has been made possible because he allied himself with the samurai, the minx, Law, and Kid. And by the end of this, I think they'll just barely pull it off. Now, think about this for a moment. How much more would the percentage of victory in defeating Kaido have gone up had Luffy called upon even just a fraction of support from the Straw Hat Armada? Like, I'm not saying it would have made a drastic difference, so to speak, but I think just having a small contingent of the Straw Hat Armada there in order to help, like a small contingent of the army of what makes up the Straw Hat Armada. I think them being there, I think it would have prevented a lot of the current problems from being even problems to begin with. All these current problems happening while Luffy is fighting Kaido, I think would be less so had he just called on for more aid. And again, it's one of those things where I get it. These are still kind of like what's going on currently were important character moments for both Luffy and Momo. In Luffy's case, I think it was to give him that moment where we as the reader realize, yes, he can defeat a Yonko. And for Momo, it was for him to come to terms with that, yes, that he does have the power to save Wano. He just has to believe in himself. And again, I wouldn't want that taken away from either of them. But there's so much stuff in between this arc, I find, that could have been avoided, and could have been avoided had Luffy just called upon more aid. And in that respect, I think there's a little bit of truth to what Kaido says, honestly. Like, in order for Luffy to truly conquer the seas, beyond this point, he has to stop relying on his own power all the time. Like, it'll only get him killed ultimately. And yeah, once again, we got to talk about Hiyori's current situation, because honestly, I think even if the water reaches where she is on time, I still can't help but feel she's gonna die. And the funny thing is, I probably wouldn't believe this if Oda hadn't started this chapter with that flashback to the fight to the night with Toki. If he had not drawn so much attention to it, I might have had hope in this chapter that she'll survive. But the fact that he went to the lengths to draw that parallel to Hiyori's current situation there, to Hiyori's current situation, and how Toki died, there's really only one outcome beyond this point. And if she does survive, I'll actually be surprised, but there's just no scenario I see of her being alive after this, especially considering that, I mean, I guess the one hope I do have is that Oda pretty much cut away from the moment where Orochi was going to kill her, like before actually seeing him kill her. But I don't know, the fact that he also cut away before us seeing him like kill her also makes me think she will die. But I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see, I suppose. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Analyst Control. Be sure to notification bell, subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, everyone.